Welcome to our second annual Huntsman Venture Forum. We're very excited about this forum. We're thrilled that you're here with us today. My name is Mike Glauser. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Entrepreneurship here in the John Huntsman School of Business. And we're just excited to sponsor this activity every year to bring businesses together with people that provide support for businesses. If you know much about the Huntsman School, you know our mission is to be an engine of growth for this community here and for the entire state of Utah and for the entire country. And so the conference is consistent with that mission or that theme. And again, the purpose is to bring together people that want to grow, businesses that want to grow, with the resources we have here in the state of Utah to help businesses grow. So we have many entrepreneurs that have registered that are here today. We have 20 companies downstairs we've selected that we think have potential to growth. We have bankers, venture capitalists, consultants, attorneys, digital media experts here in attendance today. And our hope is that we all get together and we really help the businesses here in the state of Utah grow. We think this theme is very important because Utah is a small business state. The small business is the prototype of the state of Utah. I mentioned this last night in our dinner, but I want to give you the exact statistics. Last year, there were 279,094 businesses registered, legally registered in the state of Utah. And of that group, 277,140 are considered small businesses by the U.S. Small Business Association. So that's any company that has less than 500 employees. These companies, these 99% of the companies, employ more than half of us in the state of Utah. And about a third of us, 1 out of 3 of us, work for companies that have less than 100 employees. And these companies are the ones that are creating all the new jobs in the state of Utah. So more than half of the jobs, up to 65% every year, come from these small businesses. So this is the group that we would like to help every year through this conference by linking businesses that can grow and want to grow with the resources that they need to grow. And our two speakers, our keynote speakers today, Amy Anderson, who we're thrilled to have, has grown a business from small to large. Scott Watterson has grown a business from very small to very large. So we think we have great role models. The first thing I want to do before we introduce Amy is just really thank all the people that have made this possible. And I'd like them to stand if they're here. Russell Fisher and Shalon Keller are the co-chairs. They're in the back there. They've put in a tremendous amount of time and work. Let me read off their committee members and then we can thank them. Holly Felstead. Holly, stand up. Where are you? She's the corporate relations manager in the Huntsman School. Andy Tennell is the program coordinator. He's in the back there for the Center for Entrepreneurship. And then from our community, we have Jamie Andrus. You want to stand, Jamie? She's the CEO of the Cash Chamber. We have Mark Alexander, who just caught a plane for Costa Rica this morning. But he is the, I can't imagine why he didn't want to be here instead of Costa Rica. But he's the director of the Cash Business Resource Center. And then Chase Anderson is the Logan Chapter Director for Silicon Slopes. Chase, are you here today? I think he's here somewhere. In addition, this has really been a student project as well. So we've had more than a dozen students help with this event, and they've really done a lot of the legwork. I'm just going to read the leaders' names of the student team. So we have Josh Fiegelson. Why don't you stand if you're in the room? Brooke Gunnell, up here. Yadira Martinez and Berkeley Pond. So they've really made this happen. Let's give those students a hand. They're awesome. We have great sponsors. The major sponsors are our Center for Entrepreneurship, the Center for Growth and Opportunity, Workman Nidegger, KeyBank, Mountain West Small Business Finance, and Curtin and McConkie. So we're really grateful to those sponsors that have helped us put this on, and we hope will keep helping us put it on in the years to come. So let's move on to the most important part of the morning. I'm absolutely thrilled to have Amy Anderson with us today. Amy Anderson is on our board at the Center for Entrepreneurship. She's a great friend of Utah State University. We love working with her. Our students absolutely love her. She's a great role model, especially to our female students. But she's the founder and managing partner of Rees Capital, which is an investment firm. It's an angel investment firm that not only makes investments into companies, but actually mentors those founders as well. She's a writer for Forbes magazine and the Huffington Post. And her brand new book, What Awesome Looks Like, How to Excel in Business and Life, you all have a copy of that. And so we're happy to give you that copy. It's an awesome book. I've read it. If you didn't pick up your packet, they're in your bag, and those bags are down on the first floor as you enter this building. So during the break, go down and get that bag, and you'll get a copy of her book. Prior to founding Rees Capital, Amy was the CEO of MediConnect Global, which is one of the largest medical record and retrieval companies in the country. She grew that 1,500% during her tenure and then sold the company for $377 million later. And she's now devoting most of her time to helping other people have that same experience. She's the founder of the Ipop Foundation. It's a charity that focuses on helping and to educate and mentor entrepreneurs. And then she's been on a number of boards and won a number of awards. She's been the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, the Utah Business CEO of the Year. She serves on 15 or 20 boards, and we're thrilled that she's on our board. So she is here today. Amy Rees Anderson.
Thanks, Matt. Well, I'm excited to be here today, not just to be with you guys, but because I made it through the traffic in Salt Lake. And for those that haven't watched the news, holy cow, it was terrifying. So I'm just feeling very blessed that we actually made it alive. I'm going to talk a little bit today. You know, you heard Mike say that I had a company called MediConnect. And I'm going to talk a little bit about with MediConnect, the growth that we experience, because I know the theme of the conference is growing your business. And I'm going to talk a little bit just about some of the things that helped us go from being a small, tiny company to selling for $377 million. Some of the things that I think helped us to be successful. And I'm going to, some of them they're going to seem kind of simple, but these are truly the principles that actually led to that success that we had. And that's why I think it's really important to talk about those. The first thing that I think you got to do with your business, and how many people have actually started their own versus are working for a different one, okay? And how many people are managing in different positions, okay? So the first thing and the most important thing I think as an entrepreneur, founder, or a manager, or whatever you're doing, is to decide what you're going to stand for. Because you can't have a company that doesn't embody values that you personally aren't willing to embody. And I think that's critical. And so for me, when I went into start MediConnect, we sat down and I made a list of all the things that were the most important factors to me that I thought, okay, these are the things I'm willing to stand by and that I care about the most. And the most important one of the advice there is integrity. So integrity, respect, positive attitude, dependable, trustworthy, flexible and adapt to change, open to and implement feedback, super important one there, and then going the extra mile. And those are the things I thought, if I could have a company that's based on these values, then I don't see how anything can actually go terribly wrong, right? For me, what integrity means is doing the right thing at all times, regardless of whether anyone's watching you or not. It's really easy to think of, ethics, which is more what's not going to get me put in jail. Integrity is a whole different level, and to me, it's much more important. Integrity embodies all of it. It embodies having ethics in business and doing the right thing no matter what. So when we started the company, I put on my wall a sign that said, "Do what is right." And that was my reminder for me and the executive team that we'd be able to remember to do the right thing. But sometimes when you're trying to do the right thing, it can lead to a bad result. And that's scary, especially as you're in a startup mode. How many people are still in startup kind of phase of their business right now? Okay, it's scary, isn't it? Right? And just so you know, it doesn't get any less scary the bigger you get. It actually gets worse. But you'll be excited. So the problem was that it sometimes is going to lead to a negative consequence. Doing the right thing sometimes is going to mean that you lose. Being honest in your sales tactics could mean that the sales guy who's dishonest is going to win. And that can be really hard to have happen, right? So what we had to do is decided that we were going to do the right thing no matter what the consequence was going to be. Even if we were going to fail, we were going to do the right thing. And for us, we decided, let's change what's on the board from let's do what's right. We put do what's right, let the consequence follow. And that second part was just to remind ourselves, look, if it goes wrong, and we know we might lose, if we do the right thing, we might lose, we're going to do it anyway. And we made that decision in the very beginning. And I think that changed everything for us because it really took decisions off the table. Once you know what you stand for, everything else kind of falls in line with that. One of the things that my dad taught me that was actually super helpful, my dad was he was justice and my mom was mercy. That was their personalities. And whenever I'd have a hard decision to make, and it said that I needed to fire someone who needed to get fired, right? And you like the emotions of, oh, I don't want to fire this person. They're such a nice person, though. They don't mean to suck. They just do. And you can kind of like talk yourself into all these things, right? Or this person's a really good employee and they're super talented. Yeah, they're a jerk to everybody else, but they're so talented, I don't want to fire them, right? There's all these, I could give a million examples like that. And one of the things my dad said to me is, he said, Amy, when you need to make a decision, what's right and wrong, take the emotion out of it. Take the emotion out for a minute. If there was no emotion in it, what would you decide? Do that, and then later you can go cry about it if you want to. That actually ended up being super valuable advice because it really is a lot easier to figure out the difference between right and wrong when you take your emotions out and go, if I wasn't feeling those emotions, what would I do? And the reason that matters so much is because your success is going to come and go, but your integrity is forever. And it is the most important, valuable asset you have. And it's not just valuable from we're in Utah, right? Some people think, oh, from a religious aspect. I'm talking about from a financial, business aspect. It is the most valuable asset that you contain, 100%. The other stuff's going to come and go, but that will follow you. It'll lead to your success. So we decided those were our values and the principles, and I knew I had to be at the top. If I wasn't going to live them, nobody else was going to, so it has to start with me. And we decided, let's figure out a way to have those values reflected in our brand. I grew up with the Dallas FBI, and so the whole, look, spy stuff's cool, but it also kind of reflects. With my dad, when I thought about the FBI and looked at that symbol, I'd be like, that reflects integrity to me. It's like, that's the good guys. So we decided, let's actually implement that into the company and create this spy theme. Plus, it's a lot cooler to think of like having to give up your cell phone and put your stuff in a locker when you go into your company, because we had a lot of healthcare financial data that we had to, or patient data that we had to protect. And I needed to make it kind of cool, especially hiring millennials, that you can't get on the internet, you can't use your phone. But you know what, if you worked for the CIA, you couldn't do that either. So it's really cool here. So we implemented that, and we changed our titles around. So instead of finance, we had the Treasury Enforcement Agency, and instead of the retrieval, we had the ROC, which was our retrieval operations. And it just kind of made it so it kind of gave that sense, right? We changed our logos. We tried to do physical decor in the office that would kind of give that kind of spy theme look and feel of that integrity and those ethics that we talked about. Screensavers. We even had stars on the wall. If you killed it on the job, you got your star on the wall. And they were not expensive things to do, right? But they made a big impact. We had little shirts made up for everyone that said MCG from MediConnect Global, and gave those out. So, they'd get stopped as people would be like, oh, which agency are you with? And they thought that was really cool. So I show you this t-shirt because we're going to come back to that a little later in the talk about what happened with that. We started to then reflect that brand as we would bring clients through. They thought it was really cool when they'd see all the spy stuff in the office. And we're like, we should reflect this externally too, because it says that same thing, right? It paints that same picture of you can trust us. And so we did that with our external things, our websites and our brochures that we had. Just to go through some of those pictures, even our trade shows, and we would take little spy toys to give away at trade shows, which, by the way, super effective, because it is really hard to find a cool trade show toy. Am I right? Like, you've got to have something unique. People loved it. So we found a way to kind of integrate that brand into the whole company so that it showed our values. The next thing is recruiting the right people. This, to me, is the most important factor, because the success of the company is going to totally depend on who you hire and who you surround yourself with. I think it's the single greatest factor in the success. We found that you can hire for people's skills, but then you have to teach them values. And at that age, it's really hard to teach other people values. But if you hire for values, you can teach a skill. Okay, so we were like, we got to stop trying to hire people whose resumes look like they're the best and the brightest, and we got to hire people who really have the same values that we represent, because you can't go the other direction. So we decided, instead of trying to put out titles we were going to hire you for, we would say, you're going to be hired for a no MediConnect title. It was called an NMT. And that was what we would hire you in as. And we would hire you based on if you qualified in these areas. And then once you got in there, we would train you and figure out what your skills were naturally and what you got excited about and passionate about, and we'd put you in that position. Okay? And that way we also found it didn't pigeonhole people into thinking that they belonged in one place, and then they got disappointed when we moved them. Because anyone that's dealt with HR issues, as soon as you try to tell someone, we trained you, but we hired you for this, but we're going to put you there. All of a sudden, what I'm saying to her is she wasn't good enough at where I just hired her, right? And so I've already created this bad kind of relationship. Whereas if you come in and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to put you, but we're going to figure this out together, right? Then it's like they're not offended by it. So that's what we decided to do. Now, how do you go find those people that have the values that you want? Well, one of the most effective little tricks that we did is we had these cards printed up for all the employees in the company. And they said on there, we're hiring. When you call, tell them blank says you're awesome. Okay? We asked our employees, when you are out and about in your regular life and you see somebody doing something that shows integrity, going the extra mile, respect for others, hand them a card. Tell them we're hiring. Okay? Because what better job interview is there when you're seeing someone in their natural habitat? Someone who doesn't know they're being interviewed or watched. And if you go through a Wendy's drive-thru and that person is friendly to you and corrects the change and does all this stuff, that is the kind of employee you want. I don't care where they're working. I can teach them, even though we were healthcare technology, I could teach that so much easier than I could teach integrity. So that's one of the ways we found to find people, which is really, and it's also a very cheap way to recruit, saves you a lot on recruiting companies. If there's any recruiting companies in the room, I apologize. The other thing we did is we would go to companies where we thought their employees had a lot of integrity, and we'd hang signs in their bathroom. Here's an example of one. It says, if you're reading this right now, you're clearly a good multitasker, and it just so happens that we're hiring multitaskers. So we put those in those companies because we knew that's a company that we thought reflected really good values, right? You got to get a little creative on some of this stuff. We had we had bought one of these companies that had an RV. I don't know why they had the RV, but they did, and it had Joan London's face on it. She's a beautiful woman, but it was a lot of money to keep her on the side, and I was like, okay, we're good. And, you know, it's got green shag carpet on it. It was awesome. 1970 Winnebago special. So we decided we got to repurpose this thing and use it for something good. So we decided to wrap it, and we would drive it to company parking lots of companies that had, again, a good culture. And then as people came to go to lunch, we would hand them now hiring cards. People dressed like men in black. It was kind of a fun thing to do, right? You got to go where they are. We also did some fun little guerrilla tactics in our complex where we were located. There was a lot of other companies in the complex. We thought, oh, these guys have some good employees that we'd love to hire. So we hired some temps to hold a sign that said, shame on you for not applying at MediConnect. We're now hiring. It was very effective. So none of these things cost a lot of money, but they were ways to find people that were more in the elements we wanted them to. We did some fun billboard things that, again, and by the way, high school kids came up with this. So if you really need some good marketing ideas, the best marketing out there is little kids. High school, junior high, you give them a pizza, you give them some like for Little Caesars. They'll do anything for Little Caesars pizza. So I would have my kids' friends in high school come over and be like, hey, I need a new marketing campaign. They came up with the billboard. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on this stuff, but you do want to be creative. One of the things that we did run into is that people who heard we were MediConnect Global, which was a healthcare technology company, were like, well, I don't have that experience, so I'm not going to apply, right? They kind of would self-rule out. And we needed a way to reach them and say, no, we want you to apply. So being cheap, I went to my employees and said, hey, do me a favor. I'm not going to hire professional videographers for this. Everybody go home and videotape yourself in just a little short commercial of your best talent, our dumbest talent. I wanted their dumbest talent to be done. So I'm going to show you, and then we went to Larry Miller Theaters, and we had this put in the preview section. So as you're watching the previews, these are some of the actual videos that we shot. Now, if you're watching that in the movie theater, you're like, see, if that guy works there, I could get a job there, right? And all of a sudden, people are Googling it. Here's another one. I could sit and show you all of them because they are hilarious. We had so many of these, and it was one of our most effective ways to break down walls and say to people, you are not underqualified to work with us, okay? Because if that guy got a job, you're getting a job. So it was a really awesome way to kind of bring in the masses and get people to kind of get over their own inhibitions of, oh, I don't belong there, or this isn't for me, you know, those insecurities. And so you got to find ways to do that, to reach out, to find these people that you really need to hire. When it comes to interviewing, I always hated the interview process. And I'm just going to be totally blunt. You can see crazy coming when it walks in your door, right? You schedule an interview with a candidate, and they walk in, and within 3 seconds, you're like, I now have to spend the next 30 to 45 minutes with you because I don't want to disrespect you, but you're crazy, right? And so I hated that. Plus, I also hated that we would say to people, okay, we are looking to hire A, B, C, and you're going to come in, and I'm going to say, so do you have A? What are you going to say to me? No, of course you're going to say yeah. So I was like, I felt like it was inherently kind of creating a dishonest atmosphere, okay? So we decided to flip it on its head, and we were growing. We went from 70 employees to almost 2,000 employees. Okay, it was like a huge amount of growth, and we were cycling through very quickly to try to find these people, and we had to get them trained. So we decided to do something totally crazy out of the box, but it worked super, super good. Now, part of it, I have to actually give credit to my husband. I'm so glad he's not here to hear this because his ego gets big. We did not work together, but he went to Boise State, and one of the things he studied was organizational behavior, and he's like, you know, have you ever thought of personality profiling your employees before you hire them? And I was like, that stuff is so hocus pocus. Like, how's some survey going to tell you about a person, right? I didn't believe in it. That's the truth. And so I would always come home and complain about the interviews, and he'd be like, well, did you try the profiles? And I'm like, no, I didn't try, because I was like, you can't listen to your husband. I mean, come on. But finally, I was like, just to get him off my back, I went, my executive team and I were together, and I said, hey, you guys, let's take the test ourselves and see what it shows, just so I can tell my husband how wrong he is tonight when I go home. So we did. We took it. It's called, the one we took was called Wonderlic. It's WONDERLIC was the name of the profile we took. It's called Comprehensive Personality Profile, the CPP. So we take this test, all of the executives, and we were sitting around my table and we all got the results and pulled them up and we were like, oh my howdy. Like it was dead on, okay? Described us to a T, what our strengths, what our weaknesses were. It was unbelievable. And we were like, oh my gosh, so now I'm gonna have to go eat crow with my husband, which was not fun. But that's why I don't like him being here when I talk about this, because he just like reminds him. But we took this and it was very inexpensive to do. I don't know what it's currently priced at, but for us it was very inexpensive. And we made it so that anyone that was gonna apply had to fill out the Wonderlic personality profile before they could apply, okay? Then when they came in, they got 60 seconds to tell us why we should hire them. We set up like American Idol with the executives behind the table, and they would get 60 seconds to tell us why they wanted a job. I already had their resume, I already had their personality profile, we'd already given them an IQ test, right? So we had a lot of data going into it. But it's really awesome to see what someone, if they have 60 seconds to say why you should hire them, what they come up with, okay? Super effective way to hire. That we had the best retention rates we had ever had when we implemented this. I know it sounds way random, but it totally works. The next thing was, once you get them in the door, now you've hired them, you gotta retain them. And I think you gotta be really careful the way you're setting up your reviews with your employees about what you're saying you want from them, right? People need to know what does success look like. They need to know, like, how do I know if I'm doing a good job? That's how we feel good about ourselves, right? So a lot of times if your reviews that you're doing, you gotta look at the stuff that's, I know I hated doing reviews on people because they were long and it was a scale of 1 to 10 and I'm like, I don't know the difference between a 6 and a 8. I mean, what does that mean, right? Like, who knows? And so I hated it and I would avoid it. And I finally was like, look, if I'm telling people I'm hiring them for their values, that's what I should be grading them on. So we scrapped our review system and this is what we had. Literally a checkbox. You either, within the values of the company, and either you excelled or you needed improvement. And frankly, you were probably gonna need improvement on all of them, but if you needed improvement on integrity, you were out. Everything else was okay, because that's, look, if I tell you you're a 7, you're a 10, sweetheart. This is my daughter, by the way. But if I tell you you're a 7, I can't use her. If I tell you you're a 7, then you're sitting there going, some people will go, okay, well, I'm cool with a 7. That's better than a 5, right? That's not what I want. I want people to know if you don't excel, you need to improve. Because we're all here to improve. And if they needed to improve, then their manager would give them some suggested ways to improve. And it was all of a sudden doing the reviews was so much better. And the message we were sending the employees was, we hired you for the values, now live by those values and you'll be successful here, okay? And that changed everything. One of the things I had to like kind of learn as a boss over the years was that good employees make mistakes and great leaders allow them to. People are going to make mistakes. And if they make a mistake in integrity, they were out. Any other mistake, they could make it and we would all have their back the first time. The rule was don't repeat that same mistake twice. If you repeat it twice, you're on your own. But we'll all have your back the first time. That's how you create an atmosphere that lets people innovate and create and try things. Right? You need them to be willing to go out of the box a little bit. And if they try to do something, doing the right thing, and they fail, you're going to have their back that first time. And they can make another new mistake and learn something else new. Just don't go back and make the same dumb mistake again. Learn from it. And so when we did have mistakes happen, our rule was you had to own it, fix it, learn from it, and then put safeguards in place to make sure it never happened again. An example of this situation, right? We had, and this had to happen going back to that integrity thing, that you got to do the right thing no matter what. We had one of our biggest clients was a health insurance carrier that was awesome. And one of our people made a really big mistake. It was our biggest account. I mean, we were probably doing maybe 10 million in revenue with them a year. It's a big account. And someone screwed up. Now, we found the screw up and we fixed it really quick before the client found out. But what was the right thing to do? I had to get on the phone and call the client. Scariest day of my life. Went back to that whole take the emotion out of it. If I ever let the emotion in, because I could have manipulated myself into thinking, oh, I shouldn't tell the client because I have 2,000 employees whose jobs are at risk. I mean, I had to put their lives first, right? See how easy that is to do? And you could actually tell yourself, oh, I can go to bed tonight and feel good about that decision. That's the problem, is you can trick yourself into that. But the really right thing to do was to call the client, tell them what happened, own it, tell them how we were going to fix it and how we put safeguards in place. And do what's right, let the consequence follow. If the consequence was that they pulled the account, I had to be okay with that, right? So that's what we did. And it was super scary. But you know what the client said is they said, thank you. Thank you. That was what they said on the call. Thank you, because other vendors would have lied to us. They wouldn't have told us the truth. The fact that you guys did tells us that we can trust you. And they then turned and told other clients that, and we got more business because of it, and they increased their business. Now, could it have gone the other way? Yes. But would I still have been doing the right thing to pick up the phone? Yes. And that's what you have to get okay with, okay? Creating a culture of happy. Now, it's funny because a lot of men are like, oh, we don't care about this. We just want to do our job. No, they've actually done studies. Men care about this as much as women do, okay? So there's things you can do that are super simple and super cheap to make a culture of happy, and things that don't even cost the company money. We had let the employees have potluck days. They'd all bring food from home and have like their little luncheon. See, as a company, what you're getting out of this is that they're not leaving the office to go to lunch. And when they do, they take a lot more time, right? Plus, they're also kind of getting to know each other better, being like better friends as a group. We would do little cube decorating where they could decorate their cubes. This wasn't me paying for it as a company. This was them and doing it, but it's fun for people. It gives them something to look forward to and to like have fun with each other. We had sports teams that we sponsored. And I made sure that one of the executives was there to give out little soda pops and candy bars after the softball game or whatever it was. We also started a wellness program, and this is actually really, really good for you as a business person because it's like if your people are getting healthier, your insurance costs are going down, it's a win-win for everybody, okay? We did like a smoking cessation program. We had a no smoking policy in our company. You got 6 months to quit, and then after that, you can get hired or you'd get fired if you smoked, right? And I have people to this day, I still get cards from people thanking me for that. I was scared at the time. I was like, is this going to be like an uprising? It wasn't. At the end of the day, we only lost, I think, one person out of that whole company that quit over the smoking thing. Everybody else was grateful. And they started doing like lunch walking groups. We had the 6 weeks to sexy. You know, we'd have little prizes for it. It was like to get in shape for summer. And people loved it. They all got engaged and had fun with this. It's just these little things. We also would encourage them to serve. Right? We had these little coins that said, you inspired me. And then they'd write a little card as to how you inspired them and then pay it forward. And then when you saw someone inspire you, you'd give it to them. And we were doing that just internally with our employees. And a customer found out about it and was like, hey, where did you order those? We want to get those little coins, right? And pretty soon it started to grow. Like people feel better when they're doing kind things for others. And you're creating a culture with your employees. Spouses matter. Okay, if you think that the spouse is not making a huge impact on the decision of that employee to be retained, you're wrong. I had a lot of programmers that had to stay late in the night doing software projects that we had deadlines to meet, and I would send their wives flowers. I would write cards to their wives saying thank you for letting them be here late because we had to get this project out. What do you think that does, right? To a spouse, that's like, oh my gosh, your company cares about me too. And we would do things like we had you couldn't go to lunch with someone of the opposite sex without signing a consensual release form. Okay, and people are like, it's legal, by the way. There's attorneys in the room, I know, because I checked before I did it. But we did that because we started to see these negative things happening at lunch, right? And marriage is falling apart. I was like, not on my watch. We're not doing this. And so by doing that, by having that atmosphere that said, if you want to go to lunch with someone of the opposite sex, go in a group, but don't go alone. Because I don't want to see families falling apart underneath my company. And so we implemented that policy. And what did that say to the spouses at home? I trust my spouse going to work there more. Right? I'm telling you, when you include the spouses and get them engaged and show them that family matters, then they will be supportive of that person working through the hard times at your company. We would include the families in our parties. So it wasn't just the spouses that came to the parties. We would, at Halloween, let them bring their kids to work and take them trick-or-treating through the building, right? And everyone had little bowls of candy at their desk. Just stupid. And we made every employee dress up. I would dress up every Halloween. It's me in my Wonder Woman costume, which is awesome. But it's like I get the executives got engaged. At Christmas, we would rent out a movie theater and go see a Disney movie together and have popcorn. These were little things, right? But I'm telling you, these make a huge difference because these people want you to succeed when they see that happening. I also learned to make sure the employees are involved in deciding the activities. We had an office down in Ephraim and we had our main office in South Jordan. And at one point, the Ephraim employees said, hey, how come we don't get to decide? The parties are always there in South Jordan, right? And I'm like, okay, what do you guys want to do? And they're like, well, we want to go to the Derby. And I was like, okay, I've never been to a demolition derby in my life. Don't really look like a girl who hangs out at the Derby with my heels and my nails and all that. But I was like, we'll go because it matters to them. And you know what? It is the funnest thing you will ever do in your life. If you have not been to a demolition derby, you so need to go. We loved it. We would bring all the employees into the stadium, and we ended up actually sponsoring a car. It was like $600 or something. It's super cheap. It is so awesome. Talk about like increasing your spirit of the company. It's awesome. So get people engaged with that. We also started to realize that, again, those little coins taught us that serving each other really made an impact. So at Christmas time, we were like, we have all this stuff at home right before Christmas that we take to like the DI or whatever, but what if we were to have our own little Santa store here internally? And we encouraged employees to bring the stuff you're going to get rid of and let other employees that are in need of those things take them, right, for free. So no charge, and they would bring their goods, and we let all the employees shop from the Santa store. And if I thought it would end up being garbage stuff at first, right? We're talking people were bringing TVs, bicycles, like unbelievably nice stuff. And other employees that were in need took it, and everybody felt so excited about it that pretty soon it started to grow, and they're like, can we bring our friends in? I said, as soon as the employees are taking care of whatever's left, let's let your friends and family come in. And it was an incredible thing to watch how these little things made such a big impact. And then we started to serve the community. And we realized if we can get involved in the community in the same way, we're letting other people know that this is the culture of who we are, and this is what we care about. So we would do little things like food drives, where we'd have like the BYU versus Utah fans. Sorry, we're down in South Jordan. Most of the employees were BYU, Utah. Because you know USU would have trumped. No, you guys, seriously, it's really true. The Aggies have better school. I tell everybody, Aggie school spirit is like the best school spirit I've ever seen in my life. Hands down, that is fact. Plus, my grandpa was an Aggie, and my great-great-uncle was an Aggie. So, but we did those kind of things. We would also gather like DVDs and send them out to the military troops. I mean, this kind of stuff makes people feel good. It makes people excited to be part of the business. We had one employee whose daughter got killed in a car accident. So every year on the anniversary of her death, we would collect teddy bears and school books and put stickers and dedicate them to the primary children's in her name. I mean, it makes people care. When it comes to communication, this is one of the most humbling important lessons I learned as a CEO, was the importance of this. I learned that if you don't communicate for yourself, somebody's going to communicate on your behalf, and it probably won't be your message. And that's really dangerous. Like when they talk about cancers coming up in a company, that's usually where it comes from. And the further you get away from the leader, and whether you're a CEO or a manager, whatever it is, the further you get away from you, the more likely somebody there is like, because knowledge is power, right? So if they can say they know what you think, even if they don't, their coworkers don't know that, and the coworkers are like, oh, you must be really important. So he'll start to just fill these gaps, but you're the one leaving the gap. So I'd get frustrated by it, and then I thought, this is really my fault, because I'm the one who's not letting them know who I am. The people that worked really close to me every day did, but the further you got out from me in the company, they didn't. And I needed to fix that, because we had grown so big. How could I communicate with people that were in 4 locations in 2 different countries, right? So we decided I've got to make something easily accessible. So we set up a company intranet site, just a simple intranet site. And at first, she was really young at the time, and we called it my CEO tweet to her peeps. Later, it's like the blog, right? But every day, 5 days a week, I started to post a blog post. Okay, now that was really hard. That was a super dedicated thing. I started it, and I knew I couldn't skip a day, because if I did, then that whole trustworthy, dependable factor, I was breaking it with my employees. They needed to know that every day I was going to put something. And it wasn't long. I mean, some days it could be, but it didn't have to be long. It could just be like a motivational little cool quote that day that really impacted me. But I started telling things like I was learning. I started to be really open and vulnerable. It wasn't like I'm the CEO, I know everything and you don't. So let me tell you officially about healthcare. No one cares, right? I was like, hey, I screwed up today. There was an employee who didn't live by the values, and they were talented, and I talked myself out of letting him go, and I should have let him go, and I won't make that mistake again, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I put you guys through that, right? And so I had to go in and just be very real. Or I'd say, hey, I'm really nervous about this decision that we have to make as a company. Or here's an area that I have, a little bit of fear that we're not handling it as good as we should for our customers. What's your feedback? And the more I started to be really open, the more the employees started to get behind me and want to help me succeed. And it was scary. Being vulnerable is super, super scary because you don't know, right? You don't want to seem weak, but it's not weak to not know everything. The fact is you don't know everything. I don't care who you are in this room. Nobody in this room knows everything. I sure as heck don't, right? So you can pretend you do, or you can be real, and people are going to want to help you succeed because nobody wants to help a know-it-all. It's not fun to help a know-it-all, but it's really fun to help someone you can make a difference to, right? So I started that blog every day, and then I realized I need a way for them to be able to talk back to me. I want to hear how they feel about it. Again, very scary, because what if they said, on this, we decided to do a discussion board where they could comment back in this company discussion board. What if they said, Amy sucks as a leader? Well, that would be really hurtful to hear. Probably cry about it later. But the fact is, if they're saying it, they're saying it. And isn't it better if they're saying it if I know? So an example is our health insurance policy. Every year the rates were going up and up and up, and employees were getting so mad. And before I'd started the blog, people would be like, oh, Amy doesn't care about us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding? I've been negotiating for months to try to get our rates down. I'm doing the best I can here. But they didn't know that. Then fast forward to the next year when I'm posting that daily blog 5 days a week, And I'm telling him every day about, like, oh, by the way, I met with the insurance agent. They said that we have a lot of people on depression medication. What can we do? And then all of a sudden people on the Cessation board are like, hey, let's have motivational lunches. Let's all bring a bound bag lunch and we'll bring in motivational speakers to help us cheer us up. And let's do this. And they were coming up with solutions to the problem, right? But they also saw that I was working on the problem and I was doing my darndest. So then when the rates came up the next year, they raised the same amount the next year. But guess what? Instead of people like, Amy's the worst, people were like, Amy's so awesome. Thank you so much for trying so hard to get the rates down. We appreciate it. I was like, I did the same thing last year, right? Super humbling to learn, because it taught me that it was my fault because I wasn't communicating. So got to, every day, consistent, and then you got to give them a way to talk back. The other thing I learned is that you got to have people included in the ideas for the company. Sometimes we'll self-select and we'll say, well, you're a programmer, you wouldn't understand finance, or you're a finance person, you don't understand sales, right? We decided, let's let the employees anywhere in the company post any idea. And so they did a little idea board, and they could post an idea, and then everyone could vote on the ideas. And the best ideas would go to the top, right? So me as a leader, all I had to do is look at the top 10 ideas with my executive team, implement those, and I looked like a genius, right? I mean, it wasn't me coming up with how to innovate the company, they were. And sometimes the most crazy random solutions would come from areas that had no background in what we were trying to solve. We had someone that was like a security person at the desk solve a problem in finance. And we had someone that was doing like something in the mailroom solve something that was happening in sales. So don't like have these like preconceived notions of who could add value. All of them can. And let them, give them those opportunities. And the more we started to do those things, that culture building stuff and the communication stuff, the more the employees were excited to be part of this company. They were excited to the point that one day I'm sitting in a meeting and on the blog post I got a thing that says on the discussion board, hey, can we have other stuff besides our t-shirts that has the MCG logo on it? And I'm like, well, I'm a super cheap boss, so I'm not gonna pay for that. And they were like, no, we'll pay for it. And I'm like, what? You guys want to like buy MCG stuff out of your pockets? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, what kind of stuff do you want? Within the first hour, there was over 150 ideas those people had posted of stuff they wanted. They wanted baby onesies with MCG on the butt. They wanted to have gym bags. They wanted to have stuff for their cars. They wanted the big buckle so we could wear them to the rodeo and the demolition derby together, right? And the employees were paying for this stuff out of their own pockets. Those are actual items we had in our store, and there was a ton more. They came up with the ideas. They were paying, and you could not walk around the area down there without on campuses. To this day, my kids will be like, hey, I just saw someone wearing one of the old MediConnect shirts. We sold the company in 2012, and they're still wearing the goods. Like, it was crazy. But man, what good marketing for your business. People that are paying to wear your logo, it's nuts. That happened because of these little things that we did, right? And the more that we treated our customers as our friends, or our employees as friends, the more they treated the customers as friends, and the more the customers referred more business to us. Okay, I want to talk a little about customer service. I know we're running short. I'll get us out of here by 10. On customer service, a lot of people don't put a lot of stock in customer service. Once they make the sale, they're like, I've made the sale, and there's this short mindset, right? I'm just telling you that if you, especially in today's world with social media, if you screw up, everyone's going to know, guaranteed. Like, you got to treat your customers right. And a 2% increase in customer service is the same as decreasing your entire company cost by 10%. Think about how much it takes to reduce your whole company overall cost by 10%. So it's super worth it. Financially, it's there. Let's talk about how to do that. First, in your communications with customers. This is really important. They did a study, and this actual study was about men and women and how we communicate. But they put the men and women in a room, and they said, okay, stay out in this room for 30 minutes, and they took them to the next room, and they said, tell us 2 questions. Who was around you, and what did you learn about them? And where were the exits? How many exits were there, and where were they located? Okay, the women knew everything about who was around them. The men had no clue. Okay, the men knew exactly where the exits were and how many there were, and the women had no idea. And what they learned from this, and they do a whole series of these experiments, right? They learned that before a man can engage in a conversation, he has to know how painful is this going to be? Yeah, he's laughing. How long is it going to take? And when you're done, what are you going to want from me? How many of the men in here are married? Okay, your wife comes up to you and says, hey, can we talk? Yeah. It's super scary, right? There's like this black hole of death that you've just been sucked into. Okay, let me give you a difference though. If your wife comes up to you and says, hey, I need us to talk. It's going to take 5 minutes. I just need you to hear me out. When we're done, you can go play Fortnite or whatever you want to do. Golf with your buddies. Are you guys in? Totally different, right? Now you're engaged, you can listen. Well, what they found is that in business, it applies to both men and women, okay? So if you want to talk to a customer, you want to talk to a sales approach you're making, when you call, if someone leaves me a message and says, hey, Amy, can you give me a call back? I'm like, oh, it's like seriously that black hole of death that the men went into, I go into it, okay? But if someone calls and says, Amy, I need you to give me a call back. I have one question. It'll take 2 minutes, and that's all I need from you when we're done. I'll totally pick up the phone and call them back. Do that in business. Also, ladies, it works with your husbands like incredibly well, by the way, especially if you need to go to Costco with you on a Saturday. 30 minutes in Costco, we're picking up these 3 things, when we're done, you can go play. They'll totally help you. So, but in business, you got to do that with your customers. And you got to do that with prospective clients, is those 3 things. And do those right up front in the beginning of the conversation, and then have the conversation. I haven't tried it with my kids. I wonder if it works with kids. The next thing we found is that the way people interpret your communication is very much based on your facial expression, first and foremost, and then the tone of your voice. And only 8% of it is based on words. Isn't that interesting? So what do you do if you're a company servicing most of your clients over the phone? Which a lot of us, our clients were national, and so we weren't around most of them. Well, what we found is if we bought everybody, when you look in the mirror, have you ever noticed you smile, right? Your tone of voice is different. So we bought little mirrors and put them on everybody's cubes. So when they were on the phone, they're looking at themselves. And guess what? Suddenly they're happier, their tone changed, they're smiling, they're like, hey, how you doing today? Because they're looking in the mirror. Super cheap, super effective, okay? The other thing we realized is when clients were logging into our website, they'd see this little photo stock girl who's kind of boring and impersonal. And we were like, that's not really creating that personal human connection. So we replaced her with the actual photos of the account manager. So now when you logged in, you got your account manager's photo. Easy thing to do, but suddenly they felt like they had this personal connection. Now I know what you look like. Made a huge impact. Then we realized I love going to Google every day, because every day you log in, it's going to be a little bit different, right? Fun, exciting. So we decided, what if we did that? We went and had the account managers all take fun little pictures, and they'd come up with all kinds of crazy stuff, right? On Fridays, they'd have their little maracas, and on Mondays, they'd have their little sleepy thing. And we started doing these funny pictures, and the clients went nuts. They thought, that's hilarious. We love logging in. We can't wait to see what you guys are doing today. Super inexpensive, but it's about those human connections, right? Our newsletter, we bagged our newsletter because nobody read it anyway. We were sending out healthcare technology and HIPAA today. Snooze, right? No one cares. They're dealing with that already. So we were like, we got to change it. We got to do something different. So we went way out of the box, and I know this is a little crazy, but we decided, let's send it out. It was Super Bowl time and Thanksgiving, and I was like, well, what if we instead send out a newsletter that says, hey, if you want your wife or girlfriend to watch the Super Bowl with you, here's the secret. Tell her about the personal lives of the players. Tell her about who was with which Kardashian, who had to buy his wife a diamond ring because he did this bad thing, right? Whatever. And your wife will get interested. It's totally true, by the way, man. It totally works. And then we said, and if you want to look like a genius, here's a quick little recipe. Take stovetop, and right before it's done, slice in some fresh celery and onions, and everyone's going to think it's homemade. Okay, so totally random. Guess what? People actually read our newsletter for the first time ever. And they didn't just read it. Now they started forwarding it to their friends. Okay, so we're like, oh, this is working. So then we did one for Valentine's, like the best Valentine gifts we've ever gotten from our spouses. And we did fun little staycation ideas with your family this weekend. Nothing to do with MediConnect, but guess what? They felt good reading the newsletter. And number one, they read it, which was progress. But they felt good about themselves. They felt good about us. And then they forwarded it to their friends. And suddenly we had other companies calling us and be like, hey, this was hilarious. I don't know what you guys do, but can we see a demo of your services? So it led to more business. We also had handwritten cards done up, little notes. The most valuable gift that you can get is a handwritten card. If you do studies, they'll tell you, like, how many people at home have a box of handwritten notes that people are giving you? I want everyone in the room. Okay, how many of you remember what you got for your birthday like 4 years ago? I know. I mean, I got a Bentley once. I do remember that. But the rest of it, I couldn't tell you. I know. I have a really good husband. But we got these little handwritten cards. We thought about that, gave all the employees these blank cards, and encouraged them to send handwritten notes to clients all the time. Whatever was going on. Hey, hope Susie does well in her soccer tournament this weekend. Hey, thanks for helping me on the phone the other day. Sorry you had to be patient with us on this issue. I mean, we started sending these out, and guess what? We actually had clients send us flowers to one of the employees to thank them for the handwritten card. They were so excited about it. Like, people were so like, wow, I never get a handwritten card. This is awesome. Okay, it didn't cost much. We started to do little things for people that were more meaningful. We had one client where he had mentioned, he was back in Kentucky and mentioned that he wanted to see his genealogy done. So we took his DNA swab and gave him his genealogy chart at the big national conference with everybody there. He's crying on stage. The audience is crying. I mean, look, you can do things like this. It makes a big difference. Nothing to do with healthcare, right? But it was really cool. The most important part is to be a Tigger, not an Eeyore. Be someone who's likable, because people do business with people they like. I will pay more money to buy a good from somebody I like. You could be selling me the exact same good next door to each other, and I will pay the person that I like more. And I don't mind doing it because I'm like, you know what, you deserve that because you were likable. That's what you got to remember, is to be happy and be fun. And those are the things that are going to lead to a $377 million exit, which is pretty freaking awesome. We're out of time. We have about 6 minutes left. I'm going to leave and close with this. And this is a personal thing more than well, I guess it's both. When I was 23, I dropped out of college. I got married. I came to BYU at 17, got married, had 2 kids, dropped out of college, got divorced. It was an ugly story. So the point is, I was kind of at a point in my life I had no idea what I was going to do. So I sat down and I made a goal poster. Now, how many of you have ever made a goal poster? Okay. How many of you think it's silly? And do not, I'm not going to be offended. Okay. At least one person's honest. Get hokey, right? Well, I thought it was hokey too. I was just depressed though, and I was like, well, what else am I going to do? So I sat down and I made a poster. And I put things on there like, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur because I didn't have a degree. I didn't know what else I could do. So I'll be an entrepreneur. But if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it right. And I want to be on the cover of magazines. And I want to like meet Bill Gates because Microsoft was brand new. I'm super. Well, you guys, some of you are older than me, so this makes me feel better in this crowd. When I'm talking to students, they're like, who? So I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'll do it right. Right now, these are things I put on there. About 8 years later, I was moving my office, and I noticed my poster, which had been on the wall. And I was like, oh my gosh, everything on that poster has happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if there's something to it. Well, then my dad came to me and he said, we're leaving to go to Africa. They'd been called to serve for our church. And he said, I want you to come out in Africa and let me just perform your wedding out there. And I was like, that's awesome, but I don't even have a boyfriend. And I got 2 kids and I'm running a company of thousands of people. What do you want me to do? But I put it on the poster and ended up in Africa less than a year later getting married to my husband from Idaho. Idaho's awesome. So now I was like, okay, obviously the poster might have something to it. I mean, maybe it's coincidence, but let's just try again. So I made another poster, put down, I wanted to see the 7 wonders of the world. I wanted to sell my company for a ton of money. I wanted to start an angel investment firm. I wanted a plane because it's just cool. And over the next few years, these are the things that happened. I ended up going to 4 of the 7 places on there, on the poster. Not because of the poster, but because of life took me there. Sold the company for $377 million, started Rees Capital, my angel investment firm. Started my foundation, the Ipop Foundation, to encourage people to use entrepreneurship as a way to become self-reliant, and got my life back with my family. That's my 2 kids and my husband. At that point, my husband was like, what are you going to do now? You know, you sold your company, what are you going to do? So I was like, I'm going to build a dream house. So I made a poster of my dream house. Now, my dream house poster was actually about 30, 40 pages. But I just pulled some of the actual pictures from my dream poster on my house, and that's what it looked like, okay? That's Mariah Carey's closet, I know. So this is actual pictures from my goal poster. This is the actual house that I built. So now I'm just saying, now it's like, okay, this poster thing, there's something there. So, I mean, like, seriously, can we look at the closet, ladies? There's something clearly there. It's a spiritual moment. I know there's a lot of men in the room, but for the women, we should take a moment of silence, okay? My husband's like, now what? And I was like, well, I got to make another poster, but I don't even know what I'm going to put on it now. And it's kind of scary to put stuff on there because now I know whatever I put has actually happened in my life. So I started my poster. I was like, okay, I want my 2 kids to get married in the temple. And I want them to have a bunch of babies because I only have 2 kids. They get $1 million on their 8th child. We're not negotiating down from there because I need 16 grandbabies. And I built that house with 16 little bunk beds in the basement for grandbabies. You know, if you build it, they will come. And so I thought Europe would be really fun to go to Europe, right? And it bothered me that I dropped out of college and didn't get to finish my education. It wasn't because I didn't value education. I just didn't have money back then, right? And so it really bothered me, and I was like, but I'm not going to put it on the poster because I'm not going back to school. I teach at the master's program at half the schools. I'm not going to do that. My husband's like, just put it on there. You don't know, right? So I did, and then I thought, well, you know, this blog, remember that blog I'd been writing every day, 5 days a week? I continued to write that. Even after I sold the company, the employees were like, are you going to keep writing it? And I was like, okay, you don't have to read it because you don't work for me. But I did. I kept writing it, okay? And to this day, I have not missed a day since 2010, 5 days a week. Every week since 2010, I still write a blog sharing all the life lessons I'm learning, the stupid mistakes I make, the dumb ones my husband makes, occasionally my children. It's very open. My kids know. They're like, I'm not going to get in trouble. She'll blog about it. So, but it's my way of kind of sharing what I'm learning, right? And I thought, well, I should probably put it into a book. It was less than 4 months later, I got a phone call. And they told me I was getting an honorary PhD. I started bawling. They had no idea why. And I was like, they just don't know about my poster, right? So that was really meaningful for me. You can call me doctor. My kids won't. Those are the places we went to in Europe over the next 12 months. Those are actual pictures of us there to prove we really were there. Both of my kids ended up getting married in the temple. And we started with grandbaby number 1. And just found out, well, a few months ago, we found out grandbaby 2, which is a little girl. I have a little boy grandbaby now, a little girl baby on the way, be here in June. So I'm gonna have first 2. You need to get on it though, because you're slacking. Your brother's like way ahead of you right now. And I got a call from Forbes, who I'd been writing for, and they said, will you write a book? And I was like, yes. So I wrote the book. It just got published a month ago. You guys have copies of that book. I hope you enjoy. It's like an ADD guide to success. So at the end of the day, what I'll leave you with is that number one, make a poster. The people that were doubters, make the poster. I talk about it all over the country. I've written about it in Forbes. I have posters from all over the world. I've asked people to take pictures of them and send them to me if they want to, and I will keep those posters because I'm doing a book on how many people's lives have been changed by their poster, because I found out it's not just me. Look, I would have seen my life as that little crayon drawing at the beginning of it. And what I found out is that my life was, God means your life to be a masterpiece. So don't limit what you put on the poster. Go home, make a poster, even if you're just doing it to make fun of me later and say, that was dumb, it didn't work. But haha, trick's on you, because in a year from now, you'll be apologizing. And that's how you can get a hold of me and where you can find my blog. Thank you for letting me talk to you guys. 9:57, 3 minutes to get them to their next class. Thank you.